Team USA remains undefeated in the Olympics and continues their journey for the gold medal. But the Joel Embiid hate has continued to get louder and louder and has reached a point where I do believe is being looked at differently in comparison for some other NBA players. I want to break down exactly what is being said, why I think it is unfair to Joel Embiid, and why I am happy that he continues to get this experience here. And to put it directly on the table, what did spark my motivation for this video here was a tweet from Legion Hoops, which I think was directly framed to make Joel Embiid look bad, and that is where my frustration is, that Joel Embiid is not perfect. There are things that you can complain about with Joel Embiid. You can hit him with the second round jokes. You can make comments about his game not being your style, whatever you want to phrase it, the foul baiting. There's things that you can nitpick and be frustrated with Joel about. But to treat him like he is a guy, to hold him to a different standard than I think is the case for other players, I think is simply unfair, and I think there's been a whole lot of that going on. And it does bring back the quote from Joel Embiid saying that if you mention my name, it ends up being money for you. And I do think there's a lot of that going on, and particularly with Legion Hoops. So I do want to dive into what that quote specifically was, what was stated here, and I want to start off by pulling it up in two parts. I don't want to pull up the initial report because of it, but he was being asked about kind of the crowd noise, him being booed, and his thoughts about it. And he starts off this quote saying, "I've always loved it," Embiid said. "At the end of the day, I think a lot of people think it's hate. I see it as love and respect. If I wasn't an okay basketball player, I would not receive that type of treatment. So I see myself as being blessed, and that's why I interact with them. I interact with that type of crowd and that type of stuff because, like I said, I'm blessed to be here. And I've seen worse. I've played in worse environments. Both Gardens, the Madison Square Garden of the New York Knicks, and TD Garden of the Boston Celtics. So it's nothing that I haven't seen before." So that's how he starts things out, and I do think that is completely fair, as those are for sure some hostile playoff environments. And Joel Embiid has walked right into the Thunderdome in each of those occasions, on multiple different occasions for the TD Garden specifically there. But then he was brought up and asked about the Sixers fans, directly being asked about it. This was not something that he, went out of his way to say in the way that it was initially reported. And he said, when asked if it's something that also Philadelphia 76ers fans do, Embiid answered that the situation can be even worse than as Philly supporters may boo the home teams. Quote, "They boo their own guys more than their opponents. Sometimes it feels like our fans are more against us when they're supposed to be against our opponent," which is where the quote was chopped off from Legion Hoops. But Embiid continues on and says, "But like I said, it's all love. It's all because they want to push you. They want you to do better. Just like with this crowd. I enjoy it because it makes me want to be better and do whatever it takes to win." And that is the end of that there. That there is nothing wrong that Joel Embiid said. And I do think when given the full context, these are things that Joel has always said. And he is a guy who is too honest for his own good. That's been a problem on multiple different occasions of quotes getting twisted in ways that he simply could avoid with a little bit more of a coached up PR answer. But that's who Joel Embiid is and who Joel Embiid has always been. And I do feel bad from the athlete standpoint. I think this is a pretty universal thing where people say they want athletes to be honest, but then when they are, people hate that. And I think Joel is the victim of that on a lot of occasions. Now, he certainly pokes the bear and is Joel Embiid in the way that he is, that he doesn't make life easier for himself. But I do think it is unfair to kind of be frustrated with this being the standard, that you're not getting any of the real answers, that when guys do give them, they're vilified for them. And I think that is frustrating. Now, the thing that's frustrating to me specifically with this is I do think a great deal of Joel Embiid's success is being put against him for this. Now, there's no doubt he might be a perfect match for this Olympic team, but this is a guy who can straight up get it done at the NBA level and has for a decade at this point. It's weird to me that he seems far more respected amongst his peers, and I think that's being evidenced at this Olympic level than it is with the national media or a fan base here. For example, Patrick Beverley on his recent podcast saying that he called Embiid, quote, "He might be the coldest big man I've ever seen." And he also broke down how Doc Rivers agreed with that assessment there, which you can feel how you feel about Doc Rivers. I certainly feel some type of way as far as what he did to hamstring this Sixers franchise. But the fact is he's been around basketball for quite some time, played against, and coached up some of the most talented big men in the sport. That is some high praise to hear from him there. Now, with Joel Embiid specifically, he does feel like he's starting to find his footing. That I've been pretty open about this from the beginning. This is just the reality of Joel Embiid. He's not a guy who can pick it up and put it down and all of a sudden he's back in form. He's a guy who does have to kick off the rust, get back in shape a little bit, and we finally saw the best version of himself on the court once again yesterday, finishing with 15 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 6 of 13, had 2 blocks, was a +9. I thought he looked really good defensively as well. He had a couple real nice flashes there switching out. He's not perfect. He's not playing his number 1 A game at this point, but the reality is he does not need to. That this is a Team USA that is so loaded with talent And the frustration being that they can win gold with or without Joel Embiid. And that's the case with most guys on this roster. That there is so much talent here. The 12th man on Team USA, Tyrese Halliburton, or whoever you want to look at, would be the best player on some of these countries that they are facing. That's the reality. That's why the expectation is gold medal for Team USA. And I'm happy that Joel Embiid is a part of that journey. And I think the number one thing that I think is wrong that's being held against Joel is still this decision that he's representing Team USA. To me, Joel Embiid is exactly what the American dream is. This guy who left his foreign country of Cameroon, took a chance on himself, and built a hell of a life for himself. He's raising his family in Team USA. He's made himself millions upon millions of dollars. He chased his dream and he succeeded. That's what it's about. Now, to act like that's wrong or he does not belong on this team, to me is pretty messed up there. And the French fan base is very clearly offended by this. I think it's even more wrong when you dig into what specifically Joel Embiid is saying. So to talk about his decision a little bit with this, I want to start with the initial quote when Embiid hard launched to announce that he would be representing Team USA on his Instagram, and he said, quote, "I'm really proud and excited about this decision. It was not easy. I'm blessed to call Cameroon, France, and the USA home. After talking to my family, I knew it had to be Team USA. I want to play with my brothers in the league. I want to play for my fans because they've been incredible since the day I came here. But most of all, I want to honor my son who was born in the U.S. I want my boy to know I played my first Olympics for him." Now, I understand that France did pull some strings and go out of their way in a way they typically don't to make Joel Embiid a citizen. And I do understand that seemed to come with the assumption that Joel Embiid would be representing France. We do know there's a ton of backstory between France and Cameroon, and Joel, to his credit, addressed that head on. That he did go out of his way to make this comment, saying, "I've kind of felt rushed in the decision because I want to take as much time as possible. It didn't help that France put an ultimatum on when that decision had to be made. I saw it on Twitter and I was like, whoa, where did that come from? From the conversations that I had with the U.S., it was just take as much time as you need. There's no rush. We'd love to have you, but it's okay if you make another decision." When you have someone else putting pressure on you, it may seem like, oh, you have to make a decision. But one thing that I've always known was that Cameroon was the first choice. If they qualify, I'm playing for my home country because that's my dream, to play in the Olympics. I had the opportunity to talk with the French president, Emmanuel Macron, about what was going on. I told him one thing that was kind of bothering me a lot was the relationship between France and Cameroon and African countries in general. Even right now, there are a lot of things going on. There's a lot of pushback basically kicking out of the French because they've been so many years of oppression. That was my mindset because I knew it would be hard. With my family being in Cameroon, I didn't want to put them through any of that stuff. I want them to be safe, and the relationship between France and Cameroon or Africa in general is just not good. Now, I'm not going to dive into the politics of this, as that's not something I'm going to dive into. But the bottom line is that there is some credence to what Joel Embiid is saying here. And you got to respect that he is wearing that head on, especially the fact that, as he acknowledged, a good portion of his family remains in Cameroon. And I do think it is worth noting that particular point that he said in here about that. One thing that I've always known is that Cameroon was the first choice. If they qualify, I'm going to play for my home country. Now, you can say like it's frustrating that he didn't participate in the lead up or helping with that, but the bottom line is Joel Embiid wanted to play in the Olympics and he succeeded in that. He had the opportunity, he had his choice. Cameroon unfortunately did not qualify. That's the reality, that if he was going to represent Cameroon, he would be at home this summer. So he wanted to play, and he did for Team USA. And from a basketball perspective, for a quick side note here, is I think it's going to be very beneficial to Joel to learn to play off these great players. Playing next to Steph Curry, LeBron James, learning how they operate, how they do things, or just learning a little less ball-dominant nature of his game in a way that he can impact winning. We're seeing that from Joel. Those are tangible strides on the basketball court and should be praised for that. Is it perfect? Has he looked like the head and shoulders best player on the floor? No, he absolutely has not. Has he played to the best level that we've seen Joel Embiid at other portions of his career? No, absolutely he has not. But is that really a problem? Is that something that he should be vilified for? I also think absolutely not. So for Joel Embiid, my final request is just be normal. Just treat him like he's any other player. He's allowed to have his ups and downs. He's allowed to have his games where he does not play because of how talented this Team USA roster is. Is it frustrating? Sure, you can have your opinion on all of that, but there's nothing that you should be making more out of this than it actually is. And I feel like there's a whole lot of that in hole pulling. Stuff like Colin Cowherd calling him the most overrated player in the NBA and all these type of quotes that are coming out. The Take artists just need to take a little bit of a relax with Joel Embiid. So let him pump up the crowd, let him cheer on the boos, and let the dude play basketball. He's representing Team USA. He's going to be a key part of this roster in more games that are still to come. That there's no doubt in my mind there will be matchups, as Steve Kerr has acknowledged, and why he was benched against South Sudan. there will be matchups in which Joel Embiid is necessary, and there may be a point where he helps decide a game for this team. So feel patriotic, be happy that Joel Embiid is representing America, and just buckle up and be normal for the rest of the conversations. Hopefully, things do settle down a little bit from here. It is wild to me how much things continue on and all the way that things are phrased, that he truly has become the number one villain on Team USA, which is frustrating to me from a standpoint of that I do like Joel Embiid, and I think he's being framed in the wrong light. But it is clear that I think it's bothering me more than it's bothering him, that he does love being a bit of the spotlight. He has turned heel and embraced that in a way, so we'll see how all things shake out from here. But I do want to hear from you guys. Are you on the same page as me? Is it frustrating to you guys as well in the same way? Because for me, it certainly is. I don't know why it's getting to me as much of it, but the bottom line is Team USA is going to take home gold, and Joel Embiid is going to be a part of it. Appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in this video here. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you haven't already. Drop a like on this video, any comments below, and I'll be talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.